Hello, my tomorrow's NEET PG toppers. How is your preparation? This is Dr. Murali Bharadwaj, your classmate, your roommate, your benchmate, your tablemate in your journey to become the topper in the NEET PG preparation. Tell me, what is the disgusting topic that we want someone to revise for us? That is the Erb's paralysis, the brachial plexus injury. What are the nerve roots, the trunks, the divisions? Oh my God, lot of things. Too much of memory in the Erb's palsy. In the next 5 minutes, I am going to make you the champion. Whether a question comes from anatomy, whether a question comes from orthopedics, or whether a question comes from obstetrics. What is the relation between obstetrics and Erb's palsy? Where do you see Erb's palsy after all? It is the obstetricians who give us the Erb's palsy. Let us become the champion in this very, very important topic. Now, if you look at the brachial plexus, you should know superior trunk, middle trunk, and inferior trunk. C5, C6 combine to form the superior trunk. Middle trunk, it is the continuation of the C7 and the combination of the C8 and T1. C8 and T1 become the inferior trunk. That is what you need to remember. Now if you look at the chords, both the superior trunk and also the middle trunk, from both of them there is a contribution for the lateral cord formation. And it is the musculocutaneous which comes from the lateral, median which comes from the lateral. They are the two important nerves that come from the lateral cord. So this important pictorial, doctor, try to remember. Because a lot of times the MCQs are asked on this very important area in the brachial plexus anatomy. Now, what is a good mnemonic for remembering the contribution of the various roots to the musculocutaneous, axillary, radial, median and ulnar nerve? That's called marmu. So remember, 3 musketeers assassinated 5 rats, 5 mice and 2 unicorns. This is one of the oldest mnemonic I had been listening past 30 years when I joined MBBS. So you label the roots. Thumb is C5, your index is C6, middle finger is C7, ring finger is C8 and T1. You remember the labeling of the roots. 3 musketeers, C5, C6, C7 is musculocutaneous. You should not forget. Musculocutaneous. What will you remember? C5, C6, C7. 3 musketeers assassinated. That is C5, C6 is axillary. Got it? Then 5 rats, C5, C6, C7, C8, T1. That is radial. The root values. The 5 mice, C5, C6, C7, C8, T1 is also the median nerve. And 2 unicorns, U for ulnar. So C8 and T1 is the root value of the ulnar nerve. The 2 unicorns is what you have to ultimately remember. So to understand the whole story of the brachial plexus injury, you should know what muscles contribute to the abduction. Whenever you are abducting your hand to catch something, what is the contribution? So you should remember that it is the supraspinatus. It is the supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscle. And you should know that they are the main muscles involved in our first 10 to 15 degrees of abduction. Then deltoid muscle, right? C5, 6, 7. C5, 6, 7. So it is the axillary nerve which supplies the deltoid, and it is the main propagator of the abduction beyond 30 degrees. So that is the favorite MCQ of the examiner about the abduction of the shoulder. Now, doctor, what are the 5 points you want to remember about Erb's palsy? C5, C6 root injury, that is the upper trunk injury, is the Erb's palsy. And what is the predisposing factor? Whenever there is a lateral traction of the neck during the time of delivery, and even trauma in the adults, typically it's responsible for the Erb's palsy. For example, if there is a football match, if the player happened to fall on his shoulder, then that is the trauma in the adults, can also lead to Erb's palsy. Now, what are the 3 muscles which are injured whenever there is a Erb's palsy? Deltoid, infraspinatus and biceps brachii. And that lead to the development of the waiter tip position. So these are the essential 5 to 6 bullet points you need to remember. So whenever the head is forcibly pulled to the side in the delivery, the roots of the upper trunk C5, C6 are injured, and that lead to the development of the Erb's palsy. So C5, C6 roots are important for which nerves? Musculocutaneous, axillary, suprascapular and nerve 2 subclavius. They are the nerves which are affected whenever there is a Erb's palsy, is what you need to remember. Erb's palsy. And what are the muscles you will remember? Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subclavius, biceps brachii, brachialis, coracobrachialis, deltoid and teres minor. They are the muscles which are affected. And what is the main function of these muscles? It is the abduction of the shoulder, the lateral rotation of the arm, supination of the forearm, and the flexion at the shoulder. Flexion at the shoulder, they are affected. And because axillary is the one which supplies the sensation along the lateral aspect of the upper limb. So that is the reason C5, C6 dermatomes are involved in Erb's palsy, and there is a loss along the lateral aspect of the upper limb, is what you need to remember. And if you look at the affected limb, it will be hanging to the side, medially rotated. That's what you need to remember. Why medially rotated? Because the lateral rotators are paralyzed and there is the unopposed action of the pectoralis major, which is the medial rotator. And the forearm is pronated because normally biceps brachii is the supinator. And if the supinator is paralyzed, then there is an unopposed pronation. And the wrist is weakly flexed because of the normal tone of the wrist flexors. And there is a weakening of the wrist extensors. So that gives the waiter stiff position in Erb's palsy. So this is one of the favorite questions of the examiner, doctor. What are the muscles paralyzed and responsible for the waiter tip position? You should remember, supinator biceps brachii is paralyzed, hence there is a pronation. And there is a weakening of the wrist extensors because the radial roots come from C5, C6. And that is called the waiter stips position. Then what is a lower brachial plexus injury, doctor? Clunky paralysis, C8 and T1, the lower trunk. And when does it happen? Typically, whenever there is a prolapsed fetal arm, you are trying to pull that prolapsed fetal arm, the lower trunk or the entire plexus, because of your upward arm force at the time of the delivery. Similarly, if somebody is falling down, he happens to grab the branch of the tree. That also lead to the development of clunky paralysis. And all these lower roots supply our intrinsic hand muscles. That is the reason claw hand typically happens whenever there is a clunky paralysis, is what I want to underscore to all of you. Once more, tell me, what is the nerve which is affected in clunkies? It is the T1 root most affected, and ulnar and median get affected. The intrinsic hand muscles get affected, and that is the reason the sensory loss, because C8, T1 are involved, it is along the medial side of the upper limb is what you need to basically remember. So whenever the neck and shoulder are violently separated in a fall, you should remember it is the upper brachial plexus. When a football player is falling down, no, then there is a overextension, and that leads to upper brachial plexus injury. This is going to be a very important image-based MCQ in the tomorrow's NEET PG exam. Finally, I want to tell all of you, doctor, to become successful in tomorrow's NEET PG entrance, there's no point in wasting 50,000, 60,000, plan A, plan B, plan D. That's all bullshit. It's not really that costly. I don't know why coaching centers really make it that costly. And that too with the COVID around, there's no point in looting the students like that. Your entire expenditure for NEET PG preparation should be just 1 rupee 1 day. You get a 3 years access, 1000 days access for just 999 rupees. 2000 HD video library, 700 hours of video covering all 19 subjects, both on the Incus app and also on the onlinemmbbs.com web. Both app and web access you get, and new videos are constantly updated. 35,000 high-yield topics notes you get, 35,000 PowerPoint slides of notes, 60 full-scale NEET PG grant tests and discussions you get, and thousands of 3-minute learning videos as mnemonics, recall concepts on the Incus app get uploaded. You too can do that on Incus app. 60 top-notch national faculty members will give you daily 2 hours of live online video class, which is totally around 500 hours of live online interactive video sessions 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening. 500 NEET PG toppers who are in the top 5,000 ranks. They are our army who promised that, sir, don't worry, we will mentor our juniors who are preparing for the examination with good exam cracking tips, etc., etc. Just for 999 rupees, 3 years access, which is hardly 1 rupee for 1 day is your total investment. To get this entire subscription, you don't need to waste thousands of rupees just because somebody has a great funding behind, great branding behind. No. We have 23 years experience in helping the thousands of NEET PG aspirants, All India Postgraduate Entrance preparing aspirants to become toppers. I had the great fortune. Almost 50% of students we used to give free coaching. If somebody says, no sir, I can't pay fee, no problem, please come and sit in the class. And we used to order Irani chai with the nice biscuits, and we used to have the live classes in Hyderabad. So, most welcome all of you. Please call our helpline 9000 868 356. Please call and subscribe just by 999 rupees with 3 years access to mock tests, video library, everything. Always with you, Dr. Murli Bhardwaj. Jai Hind.